Hi everyone, I'm Anne Riddell and welcome to Arts in the City. First up, the American Museum of Natural History is world famous for its fossils, and their new addition that's 150 million years old is truly a must-see, bones and all. Our Andrew Falzone digs up the story behind the dinosaur named Apex.
At almost 12 feet tall and 27 feet long, Apex is an impressive, imposing specimen. So unique among its dinosaur brethren, it's been given its own private room at the American Museum of Natural History. But of all the superlatives associated with this incredible paleontological find, its size is probably least impressive.
It's a 150 million year old fossil. It's the most complete and best preserved Stegosaurus specimen of its size ever discovered.
The fossil known as Apex is only one of about 8 known Stegosaurus discoveries in existence.
1 week from today, experts believe the fossil will sell for between $4 and $6 million.
Introduced to the world through Sotheby's auction house in the summer of '24, Apex was originally discovered in May 2022 in the Morrison Formation, which stretches across 13 states and into Canada. It's the most fertile dinosaur fossil ground in all of North America. Apex was found in Moffat County, Colorado, in a town named Dinosaur. Yes, that's Dinosaur, Colorado, named for the nearby Dinosaur National Monument. Dinosaur is also home base to commercial paleontologist Jason Cooper, who turned his childhood dream into a career.
I'm lucky enough that my hobby and career is both finding and excavating dinosaurs. I've been digging fossils, dinosaurs my entire life.
And it was a birthday stroll through his expansive property, just under 100 acres in Dinosaur, Colorado, that led to his record-setting find.
I was with one of my best friends at the time, and he was my head excavator. And he said, "Well, Jason, what do you want to do for your birthday?" And I said, "I want to go find a dinosaur." We went down off a road and into a ravine, and my friend was walking in front of me, and when he stopped to turn around, I said, "Hey." I was like, "There's a femur sticking out of the wall down there." He looked up at me and goes, "It is a femur." I said, "Yeah, I know, that's what I said." And I saw it and I said, "I think that's a Stegosaurus femur."
A tremendous treasure veiled within 145 million years of rock, easily overlooked by the untrained eye.
It's a little hard to see, but there's your neural canal. There's centrum, here's your spine top, and that's your distal end of a femur to a stego, just sticking out.
In the world of dinosaurs and paleontology, Stegosaurus finds are rare, and when they do happen, most finds are incomplete skeletons. Roger Benson is a paleontology curator in the renowned Division of Paleontology at the American Museum of Natural History.
It's nearly complete. In fact, it's about 80% complete, so slightly more than 250 bones are preserved out of around 350 that would have been present in the animal.
Generally, in our world, 60% of an animal is considered a good skeleton. You get over 70%, it's a really good skeleton. You get over 80, it's premier. It's the best of the best.
Apex was mounted in a defensive position, helping show off some of the Stegosaurus' signature anatomy, including 17 dorsal plates, only 5 of which required partial restoration, and the tail spikes, 2 of which are entirely complete. And that's why Apex was originally expected to fetch $4 to $6 million at auction, but when bidding opened at Sotheby's, things quickly escalated.
And now the much anticipated Lot 13 Stegosaurus Apex.
After only 2.5 minutes of bidding, the price quickly soared, passing the anticipated high estimate of $6 million.
$6,500,000 with Cassandra again. It's against you, Simon.
After 13 minutes of bidding, Apex surpassed the previous record holder for a dinosaur fossil sale, which belonged to Stan, the T-Rex, who sold for $31.8 million in 2020.
$32,500,000 with Adam Stackhouse.
After 18 minutes of bidding, Apex became the most expensive fossil ever sold at $44.6 million.
Sold.
Purchased by hedge fund CEO Kenneth Griffin, the high price immediately touched off concern within the scientific community. Professor Anusuya Chinsamy-Turan is a paleobiologist at the University of Cape Town in South Africa.
Are they being completely priced out of the market? I can't imagine a museum being able to afford over $40 million to pay for something like this.
You're absolutely right. There is no way museums can afford this. I mean, even if we think about the big museums like the American Museum of Natural History and the Chicago Museum, we know that these are really extremely expensive, even for those big museums.
But not long after the auction, some, if not all of those concerns were quelled when it was announced that Apex would go on public display at an American institution. In December of 2024, Apex went on display at the American Museum of Natural History for the pleasure of the public and the advancement of science.
All of the data we collect from the Apex skeleton will be available for researchers globally. This is important because what it means is that the skeleton of Apex will be one of the most widely accessible dinosaur skeletons in the world for research purposes, albeit mainly via digital models. In addition to that, we'll continue to hold here in our permanent collections at the museum this important sample of the thigh bone of Apex, which tells us how the animal lived and grew.
Apex is set to be on display at the museum for the next 4 years. After that, a cast replica will replace the original fossil. I'm Andrew Falzone for Arts in the City.
Now we go exploring just 2 blocks away from Central Park. Donna Hanover voyaged to the infamous Explorers Club, whose all-star members are behind some of our greatest expeditions and scientific discoveries.
A true explorer has grit, determination, and creativity. That's what you'll find at the Explorers Club in Manhattan. They have about 3,500 members in chapters around the globe, and they have 5 famous firsts.
Our members were the first people to reach the North Pole, the South Pole, the top of Mount Everest, the bottom of the deepest place there is, which is called the Mariana Trench, and even the surface of the moon.
Richard Garriott, president of the Explorers Club, says the art and artifacts in the building on East 70th Street are amazing.
Matthew Henson and Admiral Perry were the first 2 people to finally reach the North Pole. In fact, from the founding of the club in 1904 to when they reached it in 1909, so that's 5 years, about 200 people died trying to make it to the North Pole. A lot of the early explorers were European gentry wearing their tweed outfits and hand-knitted woolly mittens and freezing to death. It was really Henson, who is an African-American New Yorker, who went and lived with the Inuit for a couple of years, saw that they were wearing this double-layered, seal-skinned, waterproof, appropriate attire for living in the Arctic. And in the case of this sledge, you can see that it is all tied together with walrus hide. There's not nails or screws, which would be vibrated apart.
The 1960 dive to Challenger Deep by Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh was made in a small white ball with a large attached vehicle full of diesel fuel that was buoyant so it could bring them back up. Richard himself has trekked to the North and South Poles, but the point for the Explorers Club is not just adventure, it's to advance science and sometimes art, as Richard did when he went to the bottom of the Mariana Trench.
You can see we made this aluminum die with a little emblem of the submarine on it, and we bolted with a lot of bolts a flat piece of brass across the front of that, and then we left this on the outside of the submarine to be exposed to the full pressure of 11,000 meters of seawater.
And the idea was to create art.
And the idea was to create art, and that's what it is.
He doesn't feel especially brave compared to another of their members.
Dr. Sylvia Earle, she is an oceanographer. She actually holds the world's record for deepest dive in a hard diving suit. Frankly, I would find it a pretty scary vehicle, personal vehicle to operate in. We actually around here, we call her deepness.
The club is on the cutting edge of modern exploration, with members doing more than 500 expeditions a year. They discover new species and encourage young scientists, which you can see in their quarterly journal and on their website. As a member of the public, you can stop in for a look or come to lectures and events and take a tour. And you can easily join as a friend of the club. But it's something else to become an official member. For that, you have to do serious exploration with scientific purpose. And you have to submit an application like President Theodore Roosevelt did. This flag was taken by one of the members, Roy Chapman Andrews, to the Gobi Desert in Mongolia, where he first discovered dinosaur eggs. When the George Lucas Steven Spielberg team was here doing research for a movie they were working on, using Andrews as an inspiration, they learned that he sometimes used a whip as a weapon when necessary. And that's how Indiana Jones became deadly with a bullwhip. Indiana Jones would be very much at home with the real-life action heroes that have been part of the club, including a famous sailor.
Thor Heyerdahl, back in 1947, had this idea that Polynesian islands were populated not by people that came down through the island chains from Asia, but in fact may have been people who had come from South America. And to demonstrate that that would be possible, he actually went and built a balsa wood boat called the Kon-Tiki and sailed it successfully over to the Polynesian islands, and that documentary won the first Academy Award for documentaries, and that mission really was planned on this globe, here in this room.
A very early expedition by Adolphus Greely was important.
In the 1880s, he was sent by the United States government to go take the first climate measurements above the Arctic Circle. It's still what all climate measurements in the Arctic go back to. The data starts with this expedition, but it was also a terrible tragedy.
A famous painting shows the 1884 rescue of Greely's team after being stuck for 3 Arctic winters.
In this photograph, you see the 26 crew that went into the Arctic, and in the smaller photograph, you see the 6 survivors.
The rescue ship, the Cutter Bear, is one of the most famous ships in history.
And here, mounted on the ceiling, we actually have the bell from that cutter that we ring to start all of our formal occasions.
Because his dad was astronaut Owen Garriott, who flew on Skylab and the Space Shuttle, Richard has a special interest that led him to fly on a Russian Soyuz to the International Space Station in 2008. Other members also looked to the heavens.
Neil and Buzz both were members of the club at the time they were on the moon. This flag that you see, that Explorers Club flag, was actually taken to the moon by Neil and Buzz. This particular one was literally in Neil Armstrong's spacesuit pocket in that photograph as he tromped around on the surface of the moon. All the Apollo astronauts were members of this club.
I'm Donna Hanover for Arts in the City.
Actor Chazz Palminteri's semi-autobiographical A Bronx Tale is now a one-man show, a Broadway musical, and a hit movie. Our Neil Rosen spoke to Chazz about his beloved project.
Right on this spot here stood the man, Sonny.
Chazz Palminteri's autobiographical play, A Bronx Tale, began as a one-man show off-Broadway, with Palminteri playing 18 different characters on stage. It then became a heralded movie, starring Palminteri and Robert De Niro.
This is A Bronx Tale.
Later, it was adapted into a hit Broadway musical, and now it's a new movie again, streaming everywhere, as actor, writer, and director Palminteri has filmed his mesmerizing one-man performance for all to see.
I want to shoot somebody. Yeah, I want to be with you guys. Yeah, I'm going to shoot. Come on. I want to be a tough guy. Yeah, no, yes, no, yes, no. Hey.
It's about a 9-year-old boy, Calogero, who witnesses a gangland killing while sitting on his stoop in the Bronx in the early 1960s. He keeps his mouth shut, doesn't tell the police anything, and consequently gets taken under the wing of the neighborhood mob boss, Sonny.
You're always right. You're always right. Yeah, I'm always right. If I was always right, I wouldn't have done 10 years in the joint.
As Calogero grows older, he's torn between the temptations of organized crime, the values of his honest, hard-working father, as well as racial tensions in his Bronx community. So, Chazz, how much of this was autobiographical and how much of this was embellished?
Right. A lot of these are true events. I mean, the killing, when you saw the killing, that's exactly the way it happened. And just like that. Because I'm Calogero. I am Calogero, you see. So when people see me do it on stage, they go, it's a special thing. They go, that's the little boy. This guy is the little boy. I'm telling you, somebody pulled the chain, and my life was going down the toilet. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Oh my God. Oh yeah.
Sonny.
Yes.
He did kind of like take you under his wing.
Yes.
Because you weren't a rat.
Yes, but he he had this liking for me for some reason. And when I got older, I could never understand why. And I started thinking, why would he do that? In other words, he told me, Neil, the exact thing that my father told me. Stay out of trouble, do the right thing, get out of the neighborhood.
I kept hearing Sonny's voice. Be careful, see. These guys will hurt you, see. Get out of the neighborhood, see.
So it's so hard to make it as an actor when you're unknown. Did you find this did you create this to be a vehicle to kind of like, I don't know what, before you did this, I don't know if you were like making the rounds like all struggling
Yes,
actors.
I was a struggle, yeah. What I did was to supplement my income, I was a doorman. But it was a blessing in disguise because I got fired, I went home. I sat on the edge of my bed. I saw my father's card that I put on the refrigerator. The saddest thing in life is wasted talent.
Remember, the saddest thing in life is wasted talent.
I said, well, if they won't give me a great part, then I'll write one myself. I got 5 tabs of yellow paper, and I said, what am I going to write about? I thought about that killing because it always stayed in my head. And that's how I started to do it.
Did you originally envision it as a one-man show that you could play all these different parts yourself? Or did you say to yourself, I'm going to cast somebody as the kid?
No. I wanted to do a one-person show because I knew I was a really good storyteller. So I wanted to get on stage and play all the parts.
You knew you could do all the parts.
I knew I could do it. I never did it, but I knew I could do it. Because I used to imitate the wise guys and do it. Instead of showing people, making people read the script, I'm going to show it to them.
And Sonny wore these skinny, pointy black Italian shoes that I can never understand how he got his feet in them. You see, I think that's why Sonny was so tough, because if he could take pain like that, nobody can make him tough.
But after the film, you went back and did it as a one-man show again, and you're still doing it now.
Yes, and I still perform it all over the United States. If somebody wants to see it live, they can go to chazzpalminteri.net, and my hit schedule and my whole schedule is there. But one day I decided, I'm getting old enough, I want to put it on film, the one-man show. And now that I put it on film, it's
there for posterity.
It's there for posterity. It's like a movie. I shot it like a movie. And to see it live, it's a different experience. But both are really very, very exciting. It's never been done, where the man wrote the one-man show, starred in it, then he wrote the screenplay and the movie, starred in it, then he wrote the musical, starred in it, and now he wrote and starred in the film of the one-man show. I'm living the dream, Neil. I'm living the dream.
Thanks, Chazz.
God bless.
With Chazz Palminteri, for Arts in the City, I'm Neil Rosen.
From now on, your name is C.
C?
That's right, C. Go home. Go ahead.
The hit off-Broadway play Liberation traces the history of the women's liberation movement from the 1970s to today. Patrick Pacheco, host of CUNY TV's Theater All the Moving Parts, sat down with the cast.
Playwright Bess Wohl describes Liberation as a memory play. It follows the evolving landscape of women's liberation through 2 generations. At the heart of the play is Lizzie, a journalist who unearths her late mother's past as an unexpected revolutionary in the 1970s women's movement. Set in a rec center at a consciousness-raising group meeting, the play shifts between past and present as Lizzie, our narrator, pieces together the struggles, triumphs, and unfinished battles of the women who came before her. Joining us today are 4 of the powerhouse actors bringing this story to life. Betsy Aidem as Margie, a housewife reckoning with decades of unpaid labor. Audrey Corsa as Dora, a young woman having an unexpected feminist awakening. Kristolyn Lloyd as Celeste, an editor and intellectual determined to shape the feminist movement in her own way. And Susannah Flood as Lizzie, the woman trying to make sense of it all, and our narrator. Welcome, Susannah, Betsy, Audrey, and Kristolyn, and congratulations on being part of a terrific ensemble. Susannah, as the narrator at the top of the play, you come out to the audience and you articulate very succinctly the stakes of the play. What are they?
The stakes of the play are that the gains that were made by second wave feminism and other attendant civil rights and social rights movements of the 70s feel like they hang in the balance at this moment, feel like they're in danger of being lost.
We are sisters. We are brothers.
And so the narrator is really coming out from a place of yet unarticulated but internal agitation to sort of say, how do we, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
Are we losing this? And if so, how do we get it back?
And the women answer that clarion call. Betsy, Margie answers it. She's well married for quite a long time, and she comes in as sort of the senior member of the group. Why does she answer that call? Why does she come into the rec center?
She's at a crossroads in her life where her sons are grown and her husband has retired, and she's home saying, is this it? I haven't even thought about realizing my infinite potential. And she sees this flyer at the grocery store, I'm assuming the same way that Celeste's character saw it. And she's thinking, there's something I could maybe grow into, because I've been in stasis for so long, like just doing a routinized set of tasks for a very, very long time. And her awakening through the play, it's not just our own solitary awakening, it's a group awakening.
Audrey, as Dora, you thought it was a sewing circle, right?
I thought it was a knitting circle.
Knitting circle.
Actually, yeah.
And so you chose to stay. Why did you choose to stay? And as you read through the script and looked at the character of Dora, was there something that grabbed you about her?
Yeah, well, I think the fact that Dora arrives at this group sort of by accident, and how this could feel like home to her, even though she feels completely out of her depth and totally childish compared to all of these women who, in some ways, taken control of their lives. So it was exciting to me to see she has a real transformation throughout the piece.
Kristolyn, Celeste is whip smart, comes in, has a gravity that she lends to the entire play. At least that's how I saw her. And likewise, why does she come into this group? And was there sort of a galvanizing moment for you as you were reading through it that made you think, I know who this woman is?
I think the first scene, I knew who she was. Within her first 3 lines that she says. I mean, she's like, shut up. Shut up, let them speak, let her speak.
Is she the one that says the line of a woman not being interrupted is most
we believe that
thing?
we believe that a woman speaking uninterrupted is a radical act.
Susannah, as the narrator, you talk about your mother.
Yes.
Inspired by Bess Wool's own mother,
yes.
I believe.
Yeah.
And you talk about her as this dutiful woman who made your lunches, cooked every meal, did everything that the perfect, unquote, housewife could do in the 70s. And you ask the question.
I asked the question, well, I say this woman was actually a radical, and how is that possible? That in her youth, or in a moment before she had children, she was actually leading, trying to create a consciousness-raising group with other women, and how could that be possible? That she sort of started out as one thing and then became the antithesis of that.
And one of the last things that the narrator says, one of the last things that you say, is don't be so worried about becoming me, your mother.
That you forget to become.
That you forget to become yourself. So what's great about this play is that you give people, and especially women, markers on how to do that. So we're very grateful for this play, very grateful for you and your terrific, terrific ensemble of actors and this community that you've built among yourselves. So thank you very, very much
for having us.
Coming together with us
Happy
today.
to talk about the show.
To hear more from our conversation about liberation, make sure to watch the full episode of Theater All the Moving Parts, airing Fridays at 8:30 p.m., also on YouTube. I'm Patrick Pacheco.
We leave you today with a New York City exhibition not to be missed. For the first time, the Anne Frank House, one of Europe's most visited sites, has recreated a full-scale version of the annex where Anne Frank wrote her famous diary during the Holocaust. The exhibit, which was extended into the fall due to overwhelming demand, offers a heartbreaking but inspirational glimpse into life in hiding. The story of Anne Frank told with breathtaking detail. Anne Frank, the exhibition, now on view at the Center for Jewish History, meticulously recreates the rooms where Anne Frank, her family, and 4 others hid during the Holocaust. Ronald Leopold, executive director of the Anne Frank House, explains this is the first of its kind, giving visitors a full-scale experience of the Amsterdam location.
So the hiding place where Anne was hidden for more than 2 years until they were caught in August 1944 was part of the business premises of her father. It's kind of a house in the back, as we call it in Holland. It's an annex to a building. It's a warehouse part, so usually used for storage, that they had kind of furnished in order to make it ready for being a hiding place. The 8 people in hiding decided that it would be more safe to cover the entrance to the hiding place with a bookcase that looked like a bookcase. It is a bookcase, but basically it functions like a door. So people who would come up there would think, okay, it's a bookcase, but actually it was the entrance to the hiding place.
The exhibit offers a searing portrait of life in hiding, the pressing need to be silent in a place where small comforts, a book, a board game, ultimately ended in heartbreak.
It was really important for them to keep silent, and Anne writes about that in her diary. We need to be silent, we need to be silent. We can't use the water, we can't use the flush of the toilet, so we really, really need to keep silent here. I think what makes it incredibly moving, an exhibition like this, is also the disparity between what you see in the hiding place of people who were just living their daily lives, hoping to survive, and the knowledge we have that, except for her father, they did not. The 8 people in hiding were caught in August 1944. After they were deported to a transit camp in the north of Holland, they were deported to Auschwitz on the very last train that left the country for Auschwitz on September the 3rd, 1944. So they were really close. They were really close to being saved.
The exhibit's multiple galleries in Union Square take visitors back in time through video, images, and artifacts like these poetry albums. And while the world knows Anne Frank through her now famous diary, the exhibition, extended through October 31st, presents both a nuanced picture of the girl behind the book and a broader message for all of us.
I think what is incredibly important is first to remember Anne Frank and to remember that Anne was just one of 1.5 million Jewish children who were murdered for the single reason that they were Jewish. I think it's not enough to learn about the past. It's very important to learn about the past, but it's just as important to learn from the past.
For more information, go to annefrankexhibit.org. That is our show for today. Thanks so much for joining us. A quick reminder to check us out on our CUNY TV app and on social media. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Anne Riddell. We'll see you next time on Arts in the City.